Thank you, Mr. Acting Deputy President. Tonight I want to pay tribute to the life and work of Vaclav Havel, playwright, activist, prisoner, president. Havel died on the 18th of December 2011, of course, during our Parliament's summer recess. Havel had a belligerent interest in the truth, an abiding sense of justice, and a lifelong commitment to freedom. His struggle against communism and the sacrifices he made in this cause remind us how fortunate we are to live in one of the world's oldest and most stable democracies. In a time when too often public intellectuals are dismissed as meddling elitists, Havel reminds us of the crucial role that they play in public life. Havel was born in Prague in 1936. In Stalinist Europe, his wealthy heritage stopped him from entering college, and so it was in the theatre that Havel first made his mark. He worked initially at the avant-garde balustrade, where his first play, The Garden Party, was staged in 1963. Already in this play we get a sense of young Havel's frustration with the communist regime's relationship with the truth, as the characters in the play argue over the relative sizes of large dance floor A and small dance floor C. He would go on to write 20 more plays, all politically relevant, many critically acclaimed. Havel's suspicion of the regime was confirmed during the Prague Spring, when in 1968 Soviet tanks rolled into Wenceslas Square to crush the tentative reform movement of Alexander Dubček. As spring ended, the Czechoslovakia really entered a long and repressive winter. Havel, through his plays, his essays, his letters, began a long, sometimes lonely, but always determined battle against totalitarianism. In 1975, he wrote an open letter addressed to the then party leader Husak, criticising the Czechoslovakian government. In 1977, Havel, along with fellow dissidents, published the Charter 77 manifesto, calling on the regime to honour its human rights obligations. In 1978, he, along with others, established the Committee to Defend the Unjustly Persecuted to help those harassed by the state. In the same year, he published his now famous essay, The Power of the Powerless, where he argued that Czechoslovakia was ruled by a regime that, I quote him, touches people at every step and is captive to its own lies. Commenting about this period, he said that order has been established at the price of paralysis of the spirit, a deadening of the heart, and a devastation of life. Havel, Mr. Deputy President, had a way with words, but he would pay dearly for his eloquence. In 1971, his works were banned and removed from public libraries and schools. For his involvement in the Charter 77 movement, Havel was arrested and imprisoned for 5 months. He would be arrested again in 1979 for helping establish the Committee to Defend the Unjustly Persecuted. This time, he was given a 4.5-year sentence. During this period, the secret police were a constant and menacing presence. His country home had its very own guard tower. Friends, family and fellow activists were fined and arrested. Some were killed. Despite these trials, Havel remained dedicated to his cause, animated not by ideology, but by his conscience. In his own words, he continued to criticise the government. His words. Not because it happens to be a communist government, but because it is bad. I am not on the side of any establishment, nor am I a professional campaigner against any establishment. I merely take the side of truth against lies, the side of sense against nonsense, the side of justice against injustice. Madam Acting Deputy President, in 1989 he would be arrested again for joining a student demonstration. But as the spirit of Gorbachev's glasnost overwhelmed Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia's long winter was about to end. In November 1989, students took to the streets in Prague, and what would later be dubbed the Velvet Revolution took hold across the country. And so, without violence and with little retribution, one-party rule was overthrown. Havel was the revolution's natural but reluctant leader. Shy and self-effacing, he became its figurehead. Not out of desire, but because the times and indeed the people demanded it. Havel would go on to serve as president of post-communist Czechoslovakia. During his presidency, he oversaw the peaceful transition to democracy, greater integration with Europe and entry into NATO. He was a leader of immense moral authority. He called for the renewal of society through, to quote him, the rehabilitation of values like trust, openness, responsibility, solidarity, love. But the force of his character could not keep his young nation united. Despite his wishes, the country divided into the Czech and Slovak republics in 1993. Madam Acting Deputy President, he would serve again as President of the Czech Republic until his retirement in 2002. Havel was a national leader of international standing. His courageous pursuit of human rights was recognised with a US Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Philadelphia Liberty Medal, and Amnesty International's Ambassador of Conscience Award, along with a raft of other distinctions. Like Solzhenitsyn, we can make the mistake of thinking that Havel's was a lone voice crying in the wilderness. The reality was nobler still. He had the courage to speak the truth to the powerful and to give voice to the voiceless. In doing so, he truly gave power to the powerless.